Okay, so I have started the recording. So welcome again. So I am planning to start this new series on learning GNU Emacs. I did ask on Twitter and there was quite a good response. So I thought I will start doing these sessions here. Feel free to ask questions in the chat. I like to keep this interactive. I am recording this session, so I will make it available on the YouTube channel. So that would be apart from the OCaml series. I would make the Emacs video sessions available on the playlist for Emacs, right? So I'll do that after the end of the session. All right. So GNU Emacs is a free software text editor. The project was started by Richard Stallman. Initially, it was called Emacs with all caps, written in 1976 by David Moon and Guy Steele Jr. It was sort of macros for the Techo editor, and then in 1984, Richard Stallman actually wrote the GNU Emacs version. The source code is completely available. It's quite extensible. Let me paste this link in the chat as well. So you can look this up for reference. Hi Sakil, welcome. Yeah, feel free to ask questions in the chat if you have any. I like to keep it interactive as well. Okay, so that's the GNU Emacs Wikipedia page. The actual site is at the GNUemacs.org. Let me paste this link as well. Hey Nurul, good afternoon. I'm going to start with basics, and then we will look at exploring customization and all of that. I want you all to get started and learn to improvise on this existing tool. Please let me know if you have a specific time that you would like for some of these sessions. I'm quite flexible. I do OCaml sessions, at least I've started doing it twice in a week, but I'm happy to accommodate other time zones if it's suitable for all of you. So I've shared the link to the GNU Software Emacs page. So some very important features, of course, like any other editor, we have syntax highlighting. We can use Unicode. It's highly customizable. I'll also go through Emacs Lisp, and there's a wide range of functionality beyond just editing. You can use it for email, news reading, project planning, debugging, IRC chat, calendar, a lot more, right? So I want to go through all of those things as well. We will look at each and every package and customization so that you can use the editor as your primary window, and you can accomplish a lot of things with it as how I have been doing it for years. Sakil says, I want to clean up the old mess configs before I start, so it will be helpful if you can. Exactly, so that's the whole point. So I want to start from scratch here, completely from scratch, and we will slowly build on top of that, right? So I'm going to start with very basic installation with zero configuration. Let's go through the basic commands with the manual. So I want you all to sort of read the manual as homework. We all love homework. So I will walk you through the manual briefly, and then we will build on top of that. So just stay with me for these sessions, and I'm sure I will learn as much as you will too. So a quick guided tour of Emacs. Of course, as I said, it's extensible, customizable. You can use Unicode with it, right? Let me zoom in a bit here. You can use it for your actual development work, compiling, running programs, running tests, and so on. You can also do diff. I do want to do a separate session on Magit as well, so we will go through the Magit manual as well. And you can do your complete file browser using the direct mode. And of course, setting up newsreader, email, browsing through RSS feeds, everything contained in this environment. So the way I work is first thing in the morning I open Emacs until I finish work. At night the Emacs session keeps running, right? So that's how your whole world is contained within this, and you want to improve the productivity by using this environment. So that's the whole idea behind this sessions. You can play games as well. If you want to take a break, you want to write games, you want to use existing games, that's fine too. So with that, let's start with a very basic thing of installation. So there are different ways of getting Emacs. So I am currently on Ubuntu 22.04.4 LTS. So this is just a test environment, right? So in Ubuntu, of course, you can use apt install or snap install, but what other distributions do you folks use? We can just quickly go over the instructions here. So of course apt and snap for Ubuntu, Pacman for Arch and Parabola GNU Linux. Zypper is there for SUSE. Similarly, if you're running on BSDs, you can use the respective releases. For Windows, there are versions given here using the MingW binaries, and for Mac, you can use brew or port install. Okay. So I'm going to be using Ubuntu here, but if you have any specific questions on installation, please feel free to ask. So let me go back to my terminal, and I'm going to do sudo apt install Emacs. And so this is the default one that comes in Ubuntu 22.04, and you can also manually compile, build the sources sometimes if you want to have the latest and greatest version of Emacs, unless you're using a rolling distribution like Arch Linux or Parabola, and you do a Pacman update, you will get the latest releases, and you can keep that up to date, which is perfectly fine. If you want, or if you want a stable release, you can use an LTS version like Ubuntu, and that works too. Nurul says he uses a Mac and he compiles every weekend on the master branch. That's the way to go. You want to have the greatest and latest version. That is good. All right. Yeah, I mean, if you want to work with Emacs Lisp and you want to do more customization, you want to write your own packages that you want to distribute, working on the master branch is nice. So that is a good step. I will later on also show you how to compile the sources from scratch and build the latest version from master branch. But right now we are targeting newcomers. I'm assuming I'm a newcomer to Emacs, and I'm going to walk you through the basic steps, and then we'll build on that knowledge, and we will improvise, we'll customize, and we will enhance our setup to boost our productivity. All right, and so I was asking if what's about your home lab setup for Linux. I have a lot of systems and servers at home, but I primarily use Parabola, GNU Linux. Let me parabola.nu. So it's a version of Arch without the binary blobs. So I primarily use this, and it's a rolling distribution. So most of my distros I have this, but of course for specific servers that we want to use, I have a replica setup of those for local testing. So if it's Ubuntu for testing and so on. So there are multiple distros, but my primary one is Parabola GNU Linux Libro. And the first thing I do, of course, is install Emacs, because I want to have my customization and configurations in place so I can get started working right away. Good questions. Alright, so now with Emacs install, depending on your window manager, you can straight away go to the applications and use. I'm using a custom stump WM here, so I'm just going to say Emacs at the prompt, and it should run and it should open Emacs for you, right? So this is the one that is installed. It is 27.1, so it's a bit old here. I'm just enlarging the font size for you here. So let's begin with some basic documentation from the manual. So this site is called emacsdocs.org. Let me paste this for you on the chat. So you can refer to the manual inside Emacs itself, right? So that is an option. But now that we are learning, and this person called Toma has actually generated nice HTML documentation for the manuals, right? So the source code is also available here. So the manuals included are Emacs manual, of course, Emacs Lisp, org mode, Octec, and MyKit. So once I finish the Emacs manual, we will go through the other manuals as well. So generally, like, reading the manual could be boring, so I thought it'll be good for us to interactively read and learn from this. I do have notes as well, like quick reference notes. It's available on my GitHub Twitch repo. I will share the link at the end of the session so that you can quickly refer to it, read it as quick reference, and so on. So we'll do that. So, but for now, we will start with this Emacs manual. So I'm not going to read it line by line. That would be like too boring. But I'm going to like give you the gist of the key points from my notes. Okay. And so we will go through all these sections, right, one by one. I will try to stream at least like once in a week, or if you want to have more sessions, I can try to do like twice in a week. I'm already doing like 2 sessions of OCaml in a week, but if there's more interest and people want to learn with me, I'm more than happy to have more sessions moving forward. So we'll go through each of these pages. So feel free to ask any questions as we go along. The first section is of course the Emacs editor. As we already know, it is an advanced, extensible, customizable, and self-documenting editor, which means the manuals are built in, so you can actually refer to it on the go. Most of the time I'm traveling as well. I actually don't have a very powerful podcast setup, but hopefully I will get it set up. But when I'm traveling, I will look at manuals, I want to read them offline, I know it's built in. So having these documentation on your laptop accessible without the internet is very handy as well. So let me quickly walk you through the key notes here. Okay, so I've shared the home page for Emacs. If you want to extend Emacs, we will need to learn Emacs Lisp, and the reference manual is also available. So once we finish the session, we will have more detailed sessions on learning about Emacs Lisp. This documentation is for 27.2. We have 27.1 installed here, which is fine. If you're using a different version, that's good too. And of course, the first version was released in 1985, and it's released under the GNU General Public License, which means you're free to distribute the software. You can make modifications to it. The documentation is available under a GNU free documentation license, so you can freely share it as well. It is still protected under copyright. So if we go to, let's go to the next section on distribution. So what the GPL says is that you can make modifications to the source code, but you'll have to distribute under the same license, which is the GPL. It is protected by copyright, and hence it is also licensed software. Right? And if you're interested to donate, you can always donate to the Free Software Foundation, and there's some links given here and the address for the Free Software Foundation in Boston, Massachusetts. This is about the software as such, the distribution, the copyright. It is already added in the headers, and the license, and so on. Let's move on to the very basics, which is the organization of the screen. Right. So you can start Emacs on a graphical display environment like the X Windows system, or you can run it in the terminal as well. Okay. So Hans Huy says that he has a Mac and for development and a Linux desktop. He's been using Linux for about 4 months. That's fine. And any resource to set up CI/CD for Mac laptop and Linux desktop. There are multiple tools available in the free and open source system for CI/CD. And we could take it, discuss it later on after the Emacs sessions. But you can generally look for automation tools, orchestration tools for deployments, and whether you want to run it on the server side or you want to run it locally, there are different options available. But doing it from Emacs would be really cool. You know, there are a lot of videos where you can run like Jupyter-like notebooks in Emacs and trigger deployments and CI pipelines, and you can record the output in the Emacs org file itself, and you can save that file. So tomorrow that becomes like your self-documented input and output as a journal. You can keep track of things that you're doing. So there are a lot of nice plugins and extensions that allow you to do these kind of CI/CD work within Emacs itself. So it's very handy. Good. So some basic terminology, that's what we're going to cover in this screen session. So by default, what you see here in the Emacs is called a frame. Okay, and inside the frame, and there's only one frame in this example here, you have the menus on the top. Okay, then you have the toolbars which are below the menus. Then you have what is known as the main area, which is the buffer. This is called as the window. And then we have here at the bottom, we have what is known as the mode line, and below the mode line is what you see as the echo area. Okay, so by default everything is contained in a frame. A frame has a menu bar, toolbar, a window, a mode line, and an echo area. Now this is in contrast to a lot of other window systems, right? Because generally when you open application, people say you're opening a window, right? But here the terminology has been that you have a frame and you can have multiple windows inside a frame, or you can also start multiple frames. Later on I'll tell you how to start new frames. But the idea here is that you can have multiple windows and multiple frames. At any given time, one window is selected. Okay. This is the basic terminology that is described in this organization of the screen. And next we will understand what is a point. So wherever the cursor is, right, so you see the cursor is blinking here, this cursor is called the point. And it is a solid block, and the way you should think about is that this solid block is actually between two characters, right? So let's say, let me just quickly go to scratch buffer here, right? So let's say I have this is the example that is given in the manual. So let's say I just type frog. Okay. Now the point is the cursor, which is on letter B. But what the manual says is you need to think that it is actually between O and B. That's what it says. So for example, if I type the symbol exclamation at this point, it will get inserted between O and B. So that is the point. And the cursor, of course, now is at the letter B. Every buffer has its own value of point, and that is remembered by Emacs. Okay. So always think of the cursor as the point between two characters. That is the key here. Right. So that's the point. Let's move to the echo area. So what you see here at the bottom of the mode line is the echo area. So usually the commands, the characters of the commands are echoed here, and sometimes it will also prompt you for some inputs or completion. There are error and informative messages that are displayed in this echo area. So for example, let's say I press Ctrl X, you see at the echo area Ctrl X is displayed. Now there's information saying no mark set in this buffer, right at the bottom. So this is the echo area, and sometimes if you miss a message, all of these echo areas are there in a buffer called messages, right? So if you miss some message in the echo area, you can go back to this messages buffer. I'll later on tell you how to switch between buffers. We'll go through it when we go through the commands in detail. But for now, I want you to understand the various components that are available in Emacs. Okay. Now there is a special variable called message-log-max, which basically defines the number of lines in this messages buffer. So you can configure that. So when we do customization, you can basically set how many lines you want to store in this messages buffer. The echo area is also used to display the mini buffer. Sometimes you want to give arguments to commands, input arguments. So it will basically give a prompt string, and it will wait for you to give your input. So there's also a use case for the echo area, right? So if I press Ctrl G here, I'm doing quit, and that's displayed in the echo area. I'm just going back to the scratch buffer. So that's the echo area, and then we will go to the mode line. So here you see the mode line as the one above the echo area. This is completely customizable, of course, right? And the mode line has a specific format which is given here. I just briefly describe what this mode line format is. It gives you a quick understanding of what is the status of the current buffer, selected buffer. So CS here stands for the coding system. Usually you have a hyphen, which means there is no special character set handling is there, and equal to means it's for binary files. 1 is for ISO Latin 1. So I have a 1 here, so which basically says it's for ISO Latin 1 Unix format, right? This is followed by a colon, right? The colon here, and the colon refers to a text file which is separate by newline characters. Sometimes you will have, say, an MS-DOS environment, then you will have like backward slash, or if it's a older Macintosh systems, you will have a forward slash, or you will have the Mac symbol like this being showed in the mode line. And in some systems you will have like slash Unix itself, right? So that represents the characters following the coding systems. If you have multiple frames, right, suppose you start Emacs as a background server job as a daemon, and you will start something called an Emacs client. So that's what I usually do when I power up the system in the morning. I'll start an Emacs daemon, and then I will have multiple Emacs frames started by Emacs client. So this client will connect to the Emacs server, and then I can use it. Okay. So in such a cases, you will have the ampersand symbol used. Now, after the CH, you have sometimes you will have 2 dashes, which means the buffer is unmodified. Okay. If you have double asterisks, as in the case here, which means I have modified this buffer, I have not saved it. Sometimes you will have a percentage and a star symbol, right? In that case, it means it's a read-only buffer. Let's say that you're opening a /etc/host file without any permission, and in that case, what happens is the buffer is shown as a read-only buffer, just to indicate you that you don't have permissions to modify the contents of the file. Now, usually after this, there is a hyphen. This is the normal case. Sometimes if you are remotely logging into a server through Emacs, you can do that using a tramp mode. You can, from your local Emacs running environment, you can remotely SSH into a server. You can execute commands, everything from your buffer window, right? So in that case, you will have an @ symbol here. So that is also an indication. FR usually refers to the frame, selected frame, and then you have the buffer name. So here I have the buffer name is scratch. Okay, and then you have what is known as position and line. So here position is all. What does all mean? So if the buffer is small, right, as in this case the scratch buffer, I don't have much here, so it's basically is indicated by all. If I'm at the beginning of the buffer, it is usually called as top. If it's at the end of the buffer, it's called as bottom. Sometimes there'll be a percentage symbol which indicates how much percentage in the buffer above the top of the window are you located in. So let's maybe go to messages. So I'm in all, right? This is not much here, and you also have like a scroll window at the right. You can customize that as well, or I usually like to disable it. So in some of my customizations, I don't have menu bar, toolbar, scroll bar, because I want to use as much of the screen space as possible. So I actually don't have all of these options. So as you learn some of the commands, the key combinations, everything will come into your muscle memory. So you generally don't need to use any of these menus. You should be able to boost your productivity, and that's one of the key use cases for using Emacs. Okay, so we have the percentage. I don't have a bigger buffer here, but that's okay. As we encounter that in future, I will show you the percentage. You will see that yourself here. So line is line, capital L followed by a number. Okay, I don't have the line numbers displayed here, but it can be done. If you want, you can enable what is known as column number mode. You can also display the column, so the line and the column. And then we have what are known as major and minor modes. Okay. A major mode is the primary principal editing mode in the buffer. Examples include text mode, Lisp mode, C mode, etc. But there are also some additional minor modes available, which are like optional editing modes, right? You may have not used it all the time, but they are there as handy modes for reference. Sometimes there is something called a narrow, which basically is used to sort of restrict the portion of text that you want to use. There's also something called def. If you're defining a keyboard macro, if there are some key combinations that you are using repeatedly and you want to capture them and just run them through quickly, instead of typing all the key combinations repeatedly, then it becomes really useful to define those keyboard macros, and we learn that as we go along. Of course, this mode line is mouse sensitive. As I move the mouse, you will see some tool tips coming here. I don't use the mouse when I'm using Emacs. I try to do as much of it as possible through the keyboard, but I'm just showing this here for demonstrative purpose only. Okay. Yeah, ideally I would prefer that you learn to use all the keyboard commands and combinations. Let's move to the menu bar. So, of course, here you need to use the mouse. So you click on File, Edit. There's options. There's specific buffers. We have 3 buffers here, and any tools that you want to invoke. There's Lisp interaction, and there's also a help menu. But you have to use the mouse. You can also press F10, and if you hit enter, it will correspondingly take action. If you want to just exit, you can just do Control G, right? Escape. You can just do Control G to exit from there. But I generally don't use the menu bar. I don't have it enabled, but I'm just showing it for the completion's sake of this manual. Okay. Let's move on to user input. Of course, you have different characters, and as I said, Emacs is designed primarily for use with the keyboard. Right now, the common keys that are used are Control and Alt. Okay, Control and Meta. Meta is usually Alt. Now, people might ask, like, how is it convenient in regular keyboards? Does you have to use your pinky finger to be able to reach Control and Alt? So I usually use some ergonomic keyboard, so it's kind of inclined and it doesn't have too much of issues reaching out to the Control and Alt keys. So I would suggest trying any of let me see if I can find ergonomic keyboards for you. I have tried few of those. I currently use Kensington one, but I've tried a lot of ones. I've tried the Adesso one. I've tried the Microsoft one. I'm yet to try the Kinesis. Logitech is also fine. So yeah, there's one called, I think, Perillex or something, that's also pretty good. So if you want to try any one of these, I would recommend, especially with the Control and Alt combinations. I've generally not had any issues using these. So it has this negative slope, and it also has the tenting angle, right? So reaching the Control and Alt becomes not a strain. And some people I know have remapped their Control and Alt keys, but I generally don't recommend that, because suddenly if you're going to use a different system, you want to be able to not remap the public system, for example, in library or something, right? I try to carry my laptop wherever I go to use the Emacs setup that I have, but sometimes if you have to use a kiosk or someplace, it would be useful. Nurul says he's mapped his caps to Control key, which is something I've seen as well. I know people have tried that as well. Yeah, I mean, you can experiment with some combinations. Whatever is your preference, you can try it out. Okay, that's a good suggestion. So when I say pressing Control A, which means holding down the Control and then pressing the A key. Okay, same with Meta. Say MA, or this is actually abbreviated as CA. So MA means Alt, pressing the Alt and then A. Nurul says it has worked out well. We are trying to help a colleague. It might be tough. Although I am starting with GNU Emacs, there are other Emacs versions like Spacemacs and Doom Emacs. I think they use Vim bindings. So a lot of people like to use Emacs ARM mode. So what they do is they use these variants and they use the VI key bindings just for ARM mode, right? This is another option. It's got a lot of nice built-in plugins available for you to use. I think that's also Doom Emacs. So if you're interested in trying these out, you're welcome to do that. So they have already a lot of customization built in, so it's easy for you to just get started right away. Okay. The reason I am using GNU Emacs is I want to teach you the basics. We go through the manual, you understand every detail of it, and so that you can customize it on your own, and that will give you the freedom and the flexibility to write your own plugins to suit your workflow and needs. That's the idea behind these sessions, right? But you are welcome to try out any of these existing Emacs variants for your liking. They do have good active contribution as well. 3 days ago, Spacemacs is also another option if you want to try. Okay. Good. So these do come with their own opinionated bindings, so you'll have to learn them. All right, moving along. So there's some key combinations which will be like Control Alt A, which means you press Control and Meta Alt and then you press the letter A. Okay. Now one important note you should remember here is sometimes these Control Alt keys might interfere in your desktop environment or window manager. For example, Alt Tab or Alt Space. Let me just type it for you here. Alt Tab. So your window manager or desktop environment might already have these bindings defined, so which will take precedence and not your Emacs shortcut. So in that case, if there is a conflict, you will either have to change your desktop environment's shortcuts, or you'll have to change your Emacs binding. So one of which has to be done. Mouse clicks are generally referred to as input events as per the reference manual. I will not be focusing too much on the mouse usage because I want you to focus on the keyboard usage, and that's what I will be emphasizing a lot. Okay, but you can go through the documentation. They do have specific references to mouse if you want to use that as well. But remember that Emacs was primarily designed for the keyboard. All right, let's move on to keys. Now, one key combination here is Control F for the point or cursor to move forward, Control B to go back. We will go through in detail all of these key shortcuts, but this is one character at a time. Sometimes you'll have a combination like Control X and Control F. Control X, and then in the echo area you see that it is waiting for a prompt. I say Control F, and then it moves to find file. Okay, so this is a complete key combination. So if you have a sequence of one or more events that is meaningful, right, that's a command. And if a command is incomplete, sometimes the initial keys are called a prefix key. So in the example here, the Control X is called as a prefix key here. Okay. There is no limit to the length of the key sequences. You can have as many as you want, but generally we try to keep it to 3 or 4 input events. And if you want like longer sequences, we will define macros, and you can just quickly run the macro, and it's quite useful. There are quite a number of default prefix keys. You don't need to remember everything right now. I'm just typing it here for this session. But as you use some of these, you will understand the context, and you will be able to relate to this. And most of them are designed in such a way that you don't need to memorize them. Like it's quite intuitive, right? Now F1 and F2 are also aliases for Control H and Control X6, but you can generally customize these options, but it's generally not recommended. Okay, unless you really want to change this, you can do the customization. But for now, I suggest that you learn the basic key bindings and practice them. Let's move on to keys and commands. So Emacs assigns meanings to these named commands, and every command is given a key. So when I say next hyphen line or forward word, as in here, right? This command next line or forward word, it actually represents a Lisp function. So what Emacs does, it sort of binds these commands, right, to these Lisp functions. So the actions associated with the command are performed by running the function, and there is a binding between these keys commands in a table called key maps. So we generally say the command Control N the command control N, which represents the next line list function, moves the point vertically down, right? So when I do this is control P to previous, control N for next line. That's quite intuitive, right? Don't need to memorize it. So control N is moves the point vertically down, and sometimes you can customize these things, and these are generally stored in what is known as a variable. Okay, right. We then have entering Emacs. So I already showed you how to start Emacs from a shell prompt. You can also start it from, let me quit this here. You can also do a background with a Emacs ampersand, or if you have a window manager desktop environment, you can also start it from the corresponding menu. If you want to open a specific file, you can do like Emacs foo.txt. Now we will next go through the tutorial in the next session. I think we're almost nearing the hour mark. I don't want to keep these sessions too long, so that it's good for you to revise and watch. And later on, when we do extensions and plugins, we'll also look at maybe writing your own. So after we finish the Emacs Lisp reference manual. Right, we want to look at maybe contributing to existing packages or new packages, or also look at working on org manual, for example. Okay. Magit also has some very nice cool features that we want to explore. Right, so this is starting, and of course if you want to close Control X, Control C. I'll quickly show you starting on a terminal. So this should be Emacs-NW. So same thing, right? You do have the file, the menu bar. There's no toolbar here. It's the buffer, and you have the mode line and the echo area. So all that we tried here is can be seen here. So if I do Control X, at the echo prompt you have Control X, and then if I say equal to, it basically tells me the character in where the point or cursor is. So it is basically character I. Okay, and the corresponding octal, hexadecimal value, and so on. So you can do this on a terminal as well. Sometimes if you are connecting to a remote server, and there are multiple ways you can connect. You can do a tramp mode and do a direct Emacs SSH session, or if you SSH first and then you want to open Emacs, that is also an option. And so you can work in this terminal mode as well. To exit, Control X, Control C, and you go back to the prompt. Okay. Of course, terminal, if you want to suspend, you can do Control Z here. But this is basic examples for you to start with. So to summarize, we have today gone through the basics of the Emacs editor, the distribution, the organization of the screen, what is the point, what is the echo area, the menu toolbar and the mode line, what are the different inputs, keys and key commands, how to enter and basic exiting Emacs. We will, in the next session, we will look at the basic tutorial, the Control H T tutorial, and we'll build on top of that. Noodle asks, how will I get notifications for subsequent sessions? So if you go to my Twitch stream, let me paste that. I actually publish my schedule there. So feel free to subscribe to my Twitch channel. There is a schedule page. I try to update that But is this time like Sunday suitable for you, or would Saturday be a preference, or do you want a weekday? What is your preference? I'd like to hear from all of you. So in the schedule, I do have the time published, so do check on that. I also send reminders on Twitter. So if you go to my Twitch stream, let me mute this. Okay. Saturday, Sunday, this time is also good. Okay, I think yeah, we will try Saturday also. I think maybe 11:30, 11ish. I think will be good, and then after lunch you can revise the sessions, and I think I really want you to like spend some time, go through the manual, watch the video again. I will share the quick reference notes on the GitHub repo. So if you go to GitHub, so I have an org file there. Let me paste this also in the chat. Yeah, I definitely want to stream on Saturday or Sunday. This is the Twitch one. Let me paste the GitHub. That's a Twitch repo. There's an org, the two org files. One contains all the quick notes from the OCaml sessions, and then of course today's session quick reference notes. You can quickly glance through it, you can refer to it, it's kind of handy, but I do want you to read the manual, read every line of it, whatever we've discussed, the few sections. Install Emacs on your system, whatever system you have, go through the documentation steps given here from the download page, right? Please feel free to reach out to me on Twitter if you have any issues or anything. I'll try to help. I don't have a Mac or Windows system, unfortunately, but I'm sure that the community is big enough to, somebody will be able to respond to you. We can follow up on those things. So the next session, I will continue with the Emacs manual. Of course, I will go through the tutorial, and then we'll do the tutorial and we will learn the basic editing commands. Nurul is suggesting he can help with any Emacs specific questions. That's really helpful and awesome. Thank you, Nurul. Yeah, I think everybody has to start somewhere. So the way I'm approaching this is that I'm assuming I am a newbie myself, and I'm going to start with zero knowledge. And so by learning through the manual and sharing with the community and you asking questions, it will be a very interactive way of learning and helping each other out. So that's the idea behind the sessions. So let me stop the recording here.